Hello, my name is Lucia Brunsack and I'm an exchange student from Germany.
I'm Skylar Gard, a first-year student here at NAU.
In this video, we'll be talking about the story of La Plaza Vieja and the community's resilience in the face of challenges ranging from discrimination to the gentrification brought on by NAU.
In particular, we want to answer the questions: what does La Plaza Vieja mean to the people that call it home? How has it changed over the years? And what lessons does the La Plaza Vieja community have for the rest of us?
For anyone unfamiliar, La Plaza Vieja, also known as Old Town, is a historically Mexican neighborhood here in Flagstaff, Arizona. It is located northeast of the NAU campus, as can be seen on the map.
La Plaza Vieja has a rich cultural heritage and history, marked by experiences of racial discrimination and community resilience. Now, the town is changing, with much of its historic community and cultural identity under threat of dissolution as families move out, their home and land appropriated for student housing. This project was conducted together by our class in U.S. Multi-Ethnic Literature, Storytelling and Self-Determination. A couple of intersecting events came together to involve our class in the preservation of the cultural heritage of La Plaza Vieja. For one, the community of La Plaza Vieja itself is interested in preserving their stories while it remains possible. The community is currently planning Reviving La Plaza Vieja Park, a project to install bricks engraved with La Plaza family names in a piece of La Plaza Vieja, displayed here. In addition to this, the project entails developing a website that preserves the stories of residents.
Meanwhile, as the title implies, our class this semester is focused on storytelling as self-determination. Storytelling can play a powerful role in shaping a community's cultural identity and relationship to its surroundings. When outsiders tell a community's stories, it can contribute to false and harmful stereotypes while leaving out important information about the community's cultural heritage. In many Hollywood films and television shows, for example, Mexican-American neighborhoods are often depicted as crime-ridden areas plagued by poverty, gangs, and violence. The stories we collected, however, paint a very different picture, as we will shortly present to you. Since the Reviving La Plaza Vieja Park project ties in with this topic of storytelling as self-determination of our class, our professor, Dr. Emily Davalos, arranged for us to pilot this project, conducting 3 interviews with La Plaza Vieja residents and putting their stories together in the form of videos and presentations.
This method of collecting the story of La Plaza Vieja by interviewing the residents is called an oral history project, a method of research that focuses on asking people questions about their own lives. This method allows us to learn about people's lived experiences from the people who understand them best, and then connect those experiences with broader historical events. Oral history supports the idea of storytelling as self-determination because it allows people to tell their own stories and perspectives, giving people agency with regard to how they are remembered. Lucia and I were part of different groups during the interview process. My group interviewed Concha Bustamante and her daughter Laura. Concha grew up in Flagstaff and worked in special ed and teaching English as a second language. Now retired, she continues to live in La Plaza Vieja.
My group interviewed the siblings Johnny and Janie Garcia, who were born and raised in La Plaza Vieja. Johnny works for planning here at NAU, and Jenny has worked many different jobs in her lifetime, most notably at a bridal sewing shop. Now, the siblings are planning to leave La Plaza Vieja. They hold the neighborhood close to their hearts, but it doesn't feel the same.
A third group in our class interviewed Jesse Dominguez, a lifelong resident of Flagstaff who is known in the community for his dedication to preserving its history.
Now, we will present what we learned about La Plaza Vieja in 3 main sections. First, we will talk about the Mexican-American community that has lived in La Plaza Vieja for the past several decades, the fond memories and cultural experiences that make up the identity of this community, and demonstrations of the community's resilience and determination to protect their tight-knit community. Then, we will talk about the community's historic experiences of segregation, discrimination, and assimilation, and the ethnically defined communities of Flagstaff in the 1900s. Finally, we will describe the factors that have wrought change in the La Plaza Vieja community today, threatening the neighborhood's tight-knit community and cultural heritage. In particular, we will talk about the role this institution, Northern Arizona University, has played in the community's recent history that gives rise to its present state.
When the Garcia siblings, Concha and Jesse, grew up, La Plaza Vieja was home to a tight-knit Mexican community. Dances, festivals organized by the local church, and games left a strong mark on the childhood memories of the neighborhood residents.
Rover sent Concha over, yeah.
Yeah. We'd get together. Baseball too. We played baseball a lot.
Group. So they played all their stuff, we played all our stuff, but sledding, inner tubing,
Sledding, playing baseball
baseball,
on the side of the hill, you know, just, riding bikes,
hide and
riding around the
seek.
neighborhood, you know.
The neatest part about it is that we were all playing, just having a blast.
It was very nice because we all were actually Mexican families, and a lot of them were big families, and we were very close, and it was fun because whenever we were gonna play, everybody would come and join, and we had a nice time.
No, I mean, all the families were good up there. Everybody was like your mom and dad.
We were very, very close.
Or if I needed something, I knew I could run across the street to use their restroom. I mean, little things like that.
If not by their fond childhood memories, the strength of La Plaza Vieja's community ties is shown in the community's resilience in the face of adversity. Concha described how when she was young, the Mexican Flagstaff community moved to La Plaza Vieja, showing how the community's ties to each other were stronger than just their ties to the houses they lived in. The community also organized gatherings of their own, regardless of the absence of outside support.
And we had broken bats that we had, pieces of stick nailed to it and what have you.
Did a lot of people move when you did to Plaza Vieja?
Yes.
Yeah. So the community kind of moved a little bit with you from Los Chantes to
Mr. Cedillo. They'd all volunteer so that us kids could have a place to play. And they created along with a church, this was church property, they created a baseball field.
The experiences of the La Plaza Vieja community are also strongly marked by experiences of segregation and discrimination. La Plaza Vieja residents describe, throughout their youth, the different ethnic communities of Flagstaff largely keeping to themselves, with an invisible wall between the spaces occupied by people of color and white spaces in Flagstaff.
We pretty much stayed in our own areas.
And
we
so,
were never allowed to go like to the east side of town unless we had business there, with our parents or anything. And going to school, we could not ourselves go to the other school that was available to us.
Yeah. And then there was the African American people too. And they had their own school. We had our own school.
We learned later on that the reason they built Guadalupe School, or they built Our Lady of Guadalupe Church, was because our ancestors weren't allowed to go into that church.
I went and sat in the front part of Nativity because there was room there, plenty of room. And they just walked in and they went closer to the front of the church. And they went and they tapped them and said, "No, you go to the back." So they moved them.
Likewise, the Garcias recall their family experiencing forced assimilation. The cultural and systemic prejudice in Flagstaff through the 20th century is evident throughout our interviews. While Concha experienced firsthand having to learn English in school after coming from a Spanish-speaking home, the Garcias report speaking little Spanish as their parents were punished at school for speaking the language. Jenny Garcia also explained that she does not identify with the term Mexican, even though this is a label that was put on her many times growing up. She views herself as Mexican American, having lived in Flagstaff her whole life.
Parents were ridiculed when they were young. And when they were in school, if they were speaking Spanish, they got smacked on the hands. Don't talk Spanish, don't talk,
Okay, so we didn't know English good, so they had to put us all together to start us from the bottom, and that's when South Beaver was built, and that's where the Mexican kids started going to school.
My wife and I, we made the application and they said, oh, we can't loan you money. I said, why? It says, because it's in that neighborhood. But in today's day, that was redlining me.
I guess when we were growing up, we were labeled ourselves, oh, you're Mexican, And I thought, okay, but I would tell them I'm Mexican American.
And the thing of it is, we were all friends. We didn't know we were being discriminated. Maybe the adults did, but we didn't. Is they come and play on our field and said, man, you guys are rough. I said, why? Patrick says, well, you guys tackle and we land on that gravel. And I said, oh, well. I said, we like go playing on your field because it's grass and we don't get hurt.
Decades ago, residents of La Plaza Vieja worried that NAU was going to take over the neighborhood. Laura Bustamante talked about how Concha used to say NAU was going to buy stuff up and it wouldn't be a neighborhood anymore. Jesse said that before NAU bought South Beaver School, everybody was already afraid NAU was going to take over the school that had been a large part of so many childhoods. Now, these predictions have come true. NAU now owns a lot of the historic landmarks of the La Plaza Vieja community. The growth of NAU has also resulted in NAU students moving into La Plaza Vieja and driving up house prices. These rising house prices drive out the low-income permanent residents and their families, who have historically made up the tight-knit community of La Plaza Vieja. For the most part, the community of NAU students is also separate from the La Plaza Vieja community, since they are younger and most leave Flagstaff after graduation.
But like if my mom needed something, there's neighbors around there that would be able to know her and would, come around and help or whatever she needed. But there are a lot of us here, so she doesn't really need, a lot of the neighborhood to come around.
No.
But it's still a good community.
Concha Bustamante misses her old friends, but accepts the changes in La Plaza Vieja, explaining simply that there's nothing they can do about it. It's clear the future she was once upset about, that of NAU threatening the community and neighborhood she loved, has come to fruition. Even so, she asserts that she still loves La Plaza Vieja, and it's still a good neighborhood, regardless of the changes in the community.
It's hard to say because growing up here, you would drive around through this town and it was like from the west side of town to the east side of town, I'd be driving and I was like this. I knew everybody, and you'd be waving to everybody going down the street. And I always tell everybody now, I'm a stranger in my own town.
Johnny and Jenny Garcia, on the other hand, are planning to move out of Flagstaff. The siblings grew up here. La Plaza Vieja is home, and they hold the neighborhood very close to their hearts. But it isn't the same. If NIU has been wearing away at this community for decades, it sounds like COVID-19 was the final nail in the coffin. While the old residents of La Plaza Vieja had been meeting up every month since the pandemic, it has been months and months since they last met up. Now, they want to find another small town.
My wife and I have had this discussion. I could ask a whole bunch more for some of our rentals, but I can't do it because I know it's hard for the people that are living in it.
Jesse Dominguez has watched La Plaza Vieja's challenges with discrimination and segregation give way to ongoing gentrification. Now, many Mexican-American families that have been in Flagstaff for generations are leaving. Some of the younger generation are struggling to find jobs here in Flagstaff. Some are drawn by the high selling price of their family homes to sell their house in Flagstaff and move. Meanwhile, with the changes in the community, some residents, like the Garcias, are leaving to find a new community. Throughout this, Jesse's done his best to preserve the neighborhood. As a landlord, he's bought what houses he can while renting well below market price. He's encouraged people to stay in Flagstaff, warning that once they sell their homes, it's gone. Now, the reviving La Plaza Vieja Park is one way Jesse is trying to preserve the neighborhood and its cultural heritage. Things are changing, there's no doubt about it, but Jesse remains determined to stay in this neighborhood and do what he can for the community.
In conclusion, our exploration of La Plaza Vieja has illuminated the rich cultural heritage and resilient spirit of this historically Mexican neighborhood in Flagstaff, Arizona. Through our interviews with community members, we have gained insight into the deep-rooted connections, fond memories, and tight-knit bonds that have characterized life in La Plaza Vieja for generations. However, alongside these stories of resilience and community cohesion, we have also uncovered the harsh realities of segregation, discrimination, and forced assimilation experienced by residents throughout history. Moreover, our findings shed light on the current challenges facing La Plaza Vieja, particularly the impact of gentrification driven by Northern Arizona University's expansion. As student housing developments encroach upon the neighborhood, long-time residents are being displaced, disrupting the fabric of the community and eroding its cultural identity. The stories shared by Concha, the Garcias, and Jesse Dominguez underscore the sense of loss and displacement felt by many La Plaza Vieja residents as they navigate the changing landscape of their neighborhood.
This project highlights the importance of preserving the stories and heritage of La Plaza Vieja through initiatives like oral history projects. By allowing community members to reclaim their narratives and share their lived experiences, we empower them to resist the harmful stereotypes perpetuated by outsiders and shape their own identities. Moving forward, it is imperative that we continue to amplify the voices of historically marginalized communities like La Plaza Vieja, honoring their resilience and advocating for equitable development that respects their cultural heritage and fosters inclusive growth. Through storytelling and collective action, we can strive to create a more just and inclusive society where every community's history is valued and preserved for future generations.
We want to thank our fellow classmates that worked together with us to collect and preserve these important stories. We are grateful to the members of La Plaza Vieja who allowed us to interview them and make this project possible.
An especially big thank you also goes out to our professor, Dr. Emily Davalos, who initiated this project and supported us along the way in any way possible. And finally, we want to thank everyone who has taken the time to watch this video and learn more about the city that we live in.
Thank you.